Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Top Rope Takes. I'm Jason, alongside with my good buddy here, Willie Thrill. Will, how's it going?
Doing well. Always glad to be here talking wrestling with you,
Yes.
Jason. We got a lot of exciting stuff coming up. Saturday night's main event, then the Royal Rumble the week
hmm
after. And yeah, solid week so far.
Yes, if Royal Rumble marks the road to WrestleMania, then we are on the highway about to exit. This is an exciting time of year, a lot of speculation going on. Saturday night's main event, as you just mentioned, is kind of like the next stopping point for us. So, a couple things to talk about. We got a lot on Raw that kind of developed into that. Let's just start with the start of the show. Main event, Jay Uso comes out to another thunderous ovation. He, of course, will be challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship at Saturday night's main event. He cuts a promo here on Monday Night Raw talking about how badly he wants to win the world title. Of course, that is interrupted by the Ring General, Gunther, who basically calls him a cartoon and says, like, you have no shot to win the world title. I kind of believe him. And listen, they're both Jey Uso's the ultimate babyface. Gunther's a really hot heel right now. I think it's going to be a fun match. I'm still very critical on Jey Uso's in ring ability, so from that perspective, like I don't think it's going to be like a technical classic by any means. It's going to be very much a a TV match like that we see all the time. I feel like, but I love Gunther and Jey Uso's entertaining, so I'm excited for the match regardless.
Yeah, I thought this was just a solid kind of promo segment to get people hyped. Honestly, what really got me in the segment was something that happened in the beginning when Jey Uso came out.
Mm.
And there's a kid next to him, and he's super excited to see Jey Uso. And Jey Uso kind of brings him into the like the aisleway where
Mm.
they do the yeet stuff. And the kid was doing it with him a little offbeat, but he caught up to it. It was
Yeah.
fine. But I was just thinking, like, in that moment, it was like, this is, I get Jey Uso, like, in this moment. Like,
Mm.
he is, like, I couldn't imagine being that kid, or even the dad seems so psyched for that kid. Just like being a fan, like watching Jey Uso doing the yeet stuff. Then you go to a show and you're standing right next to him
Yeah.
doing the yeet. It just brought a smile to my face. And like one of the main reasons why I love wrestling is for moments like that, because you
Yeah.
get to see how excited fans get, especially young fans in WWE. Another thing I noted in this segment was so Pat McAfee obviously was doing College Game Day. It was the college football championship. Shout out Ohio State. But that did mean Wade Barrett was on commentary in his place, and Wade immediately one of the lines I loved was him burying Michael Cole, being like, "You're dancing like a drunk granddad out here." When Michael Cole was going nuts for the yeet, it's like the complete opposite of Pat McAfee. Who gets on the desk doing the yeet. And I thought their back and forth throughout the night was just very entertaining. I love these two on commentary. We'll get into some other moments, but those two were great. And then it seems like another thing that kind of is being brought up a lot in WWE now that was in this promo was when Jey Uso was telling Gunther that he's main evented WrestleMania before.
Mm.
And Gunther has not. And it seems to be like this is like almost like a title in and of itself. Like if you main
Ooh.
evented WrestleMania, like it's a big deal. And it was actually the breaking point for Gunther to start brawling with Jey Uso. So it was just something interesting I noticed. I wonder if that's like something they play. Obviously, it's a big thing for like a CM Punk. Seth Rollins has
Right.
that over CM Punk. Um, Something for like Drew. Drew's main event did. Punk hasn't, even though Drew's main event was in front of nobody. Um, so I mean, there's it's an interesting thing to bring up. I wonder if that's going to play into Gunther motivation down the
Mm.
line, like if that's something, because I don't know if he's going to main event either night one or night two this year.
Yeah.
Depends on who his opponent is. But just something interesting I caught on to. But I do agree. I think it's a wash on Saturday. I don't think Jey Uso has any chance of winning. But what I am curious in the Saturday night's main event match is just how it's used as a plot device for Jey Uso in his quest to get that big world championship win down the
Right.
line. This is just another layer, similar to the Gunther Randy match when it's like Randy's going after 15 and 16. His loss means more in this moment for the story than a win does at this point. So same thing with Jey Uso.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's any shot that Jey Uso wins the title on Saturday, and I think it's for the best because if he did, it would kill Gunther, and also it's like, okay, and now what? Like, where does Jay go from here? I don't know. So I assume he's gonna lose. He'll enter the Royal Rumble, have a good performance, and then I mean, I'm curious to see like what his WrestleMania direction is.
Yeah, I'm curious if it's Bloodline affiliated because I imagine he has to get on the card this year. I mean, he's
Mhm.
been like one of the top acts,
Yeah,
especially with the crowd. But it is interesting. Is he just going to fall into some sort of tag role, or is he going to get a singles match? I'm kind of thinking it's going to be more it's tag, even if it's with Jimmy, just like something that's like these are the Bloodline guys and these are the anti-Bloodline guys, and they're going head to head. But have to see as we get closer to WrestleMania.
yeah. I think he's probably going to be going up against like a Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga, if I had to guess. Like, I don't think they've done that straight up yet, and I think maybe they're holding off on it. It would be kind of a lame WrestleMania match just because like that's a story that's been told all year. But I don't see another thing that makes sense for Jey Uso at this point. So, but I agree with you. I think he's deserving of a top spot, which is unfortunate that I just listen. There's only so many. There's so many mouths to feed. What are you gonna do? You know, unless he's Intercontinental Champion at that point. But we'll see.
And I don't think that's
I
happening
don't
either.
think that's happening. All right. So after this, we get a backstage segment. So last week on Raw, we were promised the return of John Bradshaw Layfield. There were a lot of questions about what kind of hat was he going to wear? What kind of limo was he coming out in? What kind of music would he have? And the only thing different really was he was wearing a black hat instead of a white hat. And if you guys have been keeping up with the independent scene and some work on TNA, you know that JBL's kind of made a little bit of a resurgence in the wrestling community, attacking a bunch of people. And he was here on Raw. I thought it was kind of interesting because Will he didn't really have like a real purpose here. He gets involved in the New Day and their issues with Rey Mysterio and the LWO, and it just felt like a really weird place for him. It felt very like the entire thing felt out of place. Like I didn't understand why JBL was involved in this segment at all. But regardless, his interaction with the New Day are leaning fully into their new heel persona, which was so weird, by the way. Can we talk about how JBL was the baby face and the New Day was the heel in this in this dynamic? Like, what world are we in? But he's on commentary for the New Days for Kofi Kingston's match against Rey Mysterio. And I don't know, this whole thing just felt very out of place.
Yeah, so I mean, there's two different ways to kind of take on this whole segment with JBL. And one is just in the vacuum of Raw and WWE. Just as you, if you're a WWE fan, you're not aware of anything else going outside of WWE. And it's kind of what we discussed last week, where as much as I would have loved to seen the JBL we've been seeing on TNA and all over the independent scene, I kind of figured this was the JBL we are going to get. Now, in this vacuum, this was hilarious. This was
Yeah.
just so funny. Like him, Kofi Kingston giving him $2 and being like, "You're gonna, make sure to talk well about us," and then him talking about, I understand why you guys got rid of Big E. He's so
Mm,
charismatic. He's so strong. Like now, getting rid of him, they have to pay attention to you, I guess.
mm,
And I just thought it wasn't like because they even had a segment with Dom Mysterio, I think, a few weeks ago, where
yeah.
even Dom was like, I even that was too cold for me. So I think when the
Yeah.
JBL thing, what they were trying to get across is like JBL's still kind of a bad guy. He was still
Yeah.
calling Rey Mysterio a deadbeat, but he's like, I have no other choice but to root against the
Yeah.
New Day. So it's kind of just driving home that New Day is like the ultimate uh bad guy. That even
Yeah.
the bad guys are like they took it too far. Um, Other than that, I felt like this was weird also just from the New Day. Like, if you're not gonna have them make their return to the ring, I would figure they'd want to give them a win.
Hmm.
So this, but having it against Ray made me think like, okay, well, they're obviously probably building to Penta and Ray, so you don't want to have Ray lose.
Yeah.
So I guess in this way where Ray gets the surprise win, but New Day jumps him, and then LWO comes out. Uh, it was fine, but I would have just wanted New Day to be put over more than just immediately losing in their first match back. It just felt like they were normal bad guys at that point.
Yeah.
And you're right. Throughout after the backstage segment, JBL really didn't add much other than his commentary. Um, so that's just in a vacuum. I thought his appearance was fun, but not a big deal. Then you go
Very weird.
outside of WWE, and this was really baffling. Like
Yeah.
if you are paying attention to everything else going on, especially with WWE announcing that they have a partnership with TNA, you figure, all right, JBL comes in. He's been a prominent figure in TNA. He made an appearance in the main event of Genesis.
Mhm.
He Frankie Kazarian, who's coming to Create a Pro February 16th, Lynbrook, don't miss it. He was going to cash in his Call Your Shot Gauntlet trophy during the main event, and JBL was the one to stop him at doing his gimmick. And I thought what was weird about this was even though they made no inclination to that he was doing this as far as his character, he
Mhm.
did just like kind of in a throwaway line on commentary. He's like, Clothesline World Tour.
Yeah.
I've been on a roll. And other than that, like you would have no idea that he was doing stuff outside of WWE.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, when he is doing the Clothesline World Tour, he's a silent killer. He's like got this badass look on his face, clothesline from hell, walks out of the arena. This was the complete opposite of that on commentary. So just felt weird. I felt like if you're going to do this partnership, I would have just brought JBL on NXT because it's
Yeah.
a partnership with NXT and TNA. Bring him on special commentator there, or have him be a surprise where he comes out in the middle of a match and clotheslines someone. And then now you're intrigued, like, oh, he's not only doing this in TNA, he's doing it in NXT now.
Yeah.
So it was even more baffling if you are paying attention to stuff outside of WWE. But if you are just a straight up WWE fan, I felt like it's just a fun kind of
Just a
nothing appearance.
fun, yeah. Good to see him again. I'm so glad he gave us some behind the scenes about his retirement match against Rey Mysterio. Apparently, hit a 98 degree fever, so I didn't know of that. So, good for him for toughing it out and actually getting out there on that night. That was really commendable. But yeah, the whole thing was weird. I was excited to see JBL though, and then also just one last point in all this. New Day had a massive heel turn, and they're already back in mid card hell. Like
Yeah.
they're not working with the top tag teams. Not that there are top tag teams, but like just put them with Ray and the LWO is just such a waste of their heel turn. So I thought this segment was really bad, to be honest with you. I wasn't a fan of any of it, other than JBL on commentary because he's just very funny. But from a long term storytelling perspective, I did not enjoy anything from this.
Yeah, it feels like they're holding out for something that's going to happen at the Rumble. Like
Yeah.
they're just trying to fill this time with the New Day turning heel and the Rumble, where I do think we're going to get a moment in the Rumble somehow, some way with Big E returning and
Ooh.
going at the New Day, which would then be something more exciting and definitely something that's
Yeah.
a little more digestible, I guess, for the New Day than just hanging out with LWO.
Well, I'm here for it. All right. So after this, we get a promo from Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn declaring his intention to compete in the Royal Rumble and win. And he cuts a really fiery babyface promo about how he wants to win the World Heavyweight Championship for the 14-year-old inside of him. And listen, Sami Zayn does babyface promos better than anybody else. And then, of course, this is cut off by Kevin Owens, who surprisingly is a heel, but supportive of his best friend, Sami Zayn. And he says that he wants Sami Zayn to win the Royal Rumble so that he can challenge Kevin Owens for the WWE Championship and they can main event WrestleMania together. I enjoyed this. It gave them both stories to move forward with. It's something to, they planted seeds for something potentially after the Royal Rumble. Because I think we talked a lot about Sami Zayn, again, one of those people who deserves a spot at WrestleMania, but what is it? And you know what you do with Sami Zayn when you don't know what to do with him? You put him with Kevin Owens because that's always something you can go back to. So if you had to place a bet on it right now, Will, are we getting Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens one on one at WrestleMania?
100. If I, yeah, I'd put like my house on it. Like I don't know, like
Yeah.
I'd put everything on it that we're getting Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens in some capacity.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like obviously it could be one on one, but I do think they're staring across the ring from each other in some way, shape, or form at WrestleMania. Uh, this was I found this to be the most intriguing segment on Raw and probably my favorite storyline beat
Mm-hmm.
that they've done on Raw because
It's
since
new.
Kevin Owens did the heel turn,
Mm-hmm.
this was like kind of the moment we were waiting for. Is like, what's his approach going to be to Sammy? Because obviously Sammy has been teaming with the Bloodline, reunited with the Bloodline, and he's going after anyone who's associating with the Bloodline, even though Roman seems to have had a change of heart. And I thought it was great. I thought his explanation was great as to why he is okay with Sami, but not Cody. Like Sami forgives people and he sees Sami as a good person for that because Kevin Owens certainly has not been great to Sami throughout the years in
Oh, yeah.
WWE. So him being like, you know what, you're a good person, you forgive people, and I respect that about you. But he almost uses that as a way to manipulate Sami Zayn in this to
Hmm.
be like, obviously, I know you have my back, like I have your back, and I believe you're going to win the Royal Rumble. And I know that if I need you, you can help me win this WWE championship. So I feel like it's a good trade. It's something to look forward to, and just like a nice little thing to have lingering during the ladder match, which
Yeah.
I think most people would see as like Cody's obviously going to win, and I still think Cody's going to win the ladder match. But I do think there's a section of the audience that believes that with this segment they could be pushing for Kevin Owens winning the ladder match and Sami Zayn winning the Rumble, and then they meet for the WWE Championship. Again, a long shot, but there are definitely people who want to see that match
Yeah.
and who would love to see it be for the WWE championship. I think it also I think the ladder match is going to come before the Rumble, but if they do a situation where the Rumble comes before the ladder match, then I think that adds intrigue to Sami Zayn as an entrant in the Rumble.
Hmm.
Even if the ladder match does come before and we know Cody's going to win, I think we'll be interested to see how Kevin Owens factors into the Rumble if, maybe he's an entrant. I don't like when they do like competitors who have
Have
already
matches
fought for the
earlier.
championship and then go in the Rumble, but they love to do it.
Yeah, I think I would support it because I think it would tell the story because I think everyone does expect Cody to win that ladder match. And I actually think it would be very interesting after you have this promo from Kevin Owens where he's like, don't worry, I have your back. If he loses the ladder match and then in frustration just enters the Royal Rumble, like even if he does one of those gimmicks where like he attacks like freaking I don't know, Otis or Akira Tozawa or something on the ramp and takes a spot or something like that. And then KO comes in and he eliminates Sami Zayn in the attempt to win the Royal Rumble. That would be an interesting development. My only reservation with this whole angle is if it's not for the WWE Championship, we've seen it before at a WrestleMania. And I don't know if that does enough for me.
Yeah, I see that as like well, we've seen it before. I mean, have they done it like because I know they did it at 37
Mm-hmm.
and they teamed at
39.
39, but 37 was like with a half crowd. Like, do they want to do like the one-on-one with the full crowd and the, full build? Like, it was also kind of a weird build at 37. There's Logan Paul was involved. It was like the first time Logan Paul was getting involved with WWE. It didn't really feel like a natural Sammy versus KO feud, whereas this kind of feels like it would be two, people with a moral conflict. But I do agree. I do think my ultimate point was going to be if they are going to do the situation where someone fights for the championship and enters the Rumble, this is the one time where I'd be like, this is okay because it drives the story forward and it
Mm-hmm.
would just be something interesting to look forward to. And I like your idea where he doesn't actually have an entrance. It is like an Akira Tozawa or just some jobber that he can beat up and then enter the Rumble. I do like that. So I hope we see that at the Rumble.
Well, I hope so too. Either way, Sami Zayn, an incredible babyface, and anytime he's on my TV, I'm entertained and I'm glued to it. So, hoping for good things for Sami Zayn. All right, let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about the women on Monday Night Raw. And a couple important developments we got from this episode. Let's start with Bailey, doing a lot in WWE right now. Her run on SmackDown kind of ended unceremoniously. Not a lot of conclusion there, but we know she's officially on Raw, and she's also got a lot of story going on right now with Roxanne Perez on NXT and Julia. So she's got her hand in a couple different cookie jars. But regardless, we see her declare for the Royal Rumble in this episode. She says she's officially on Raw. And in this episode, she's taking on Nia Jax, who I might have missed this. Is she officially on Raw too? Or are we just completely ending the Tiffany Stratton stuff? I'm not sure. Um, but they go one on one here. She does attack Rhea Ripley, Nia Jax, that is. So we see that. Bailey and Nia actually have a decent match. I kind of enjoyed. Um, any thoughts on what's going on with this Bailey and Nia stuff?
Yeah, so let me just get this straight, right? So Bailey's a SmackDown superstar who then gets transferred to Raw. Her first match on Raw is against a SmackDown superstar, and she's feuding with someone in NXT. So already I'm like, this is why superstar shakeup
Yeah,
stuff, roster shakeup doesn't really work for me. Because you're right, it's Bailey's first match on Raw. I feel like to define her as a Raw superstar, she should go up against a Raw mid Carter. There's
yeah,
500 of them. You could pick one of them.
yeah.
Katana
We just did
Chance.
a whole tournament about it.
Yeah, full of them. You could make Shayna Baszler. You don't need her in the tag. I don't care.
Yeah,
And also give her a win, too. I felt
yeah,
like obviously you don't want to beat Nia Jax, but then don't have the match.
yeah,
It felt weird, but I guess because they're doing Nia Jax and Rhea Ripley, they want to have Nia get the win. But at the same time, it's like there's a bunch of mid carders to choose from. I feel like they're trying to smush like two or three different angles into
yeah,
this one match. Because then you had in the middle of this match Roxanne at ringside, and Roxanne goes to slap Bailey. Bailey attacks her. Roxanne gets kicked out of the arena, which then leads to what they did on NXT. There's going to be Julia and Bailey versus Cora and Roxanne next week on NXT. So that's clearly where that's going. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if all four of those women are in the Rumble.
yeah.
So that's
Core
something to
Jade,
look forward to.
Core Jade, also side note, involved in the TNA angle as well, challenging for the TNA knockout stuff. So she's involved in that. Um,
I
this oh, go for
Did
it.
you real quick? Do you think since this will probably be the last time we bring up TNA and WWE, but I am curious, just early prediction. Do you think we're gonna see how many TNA superstars do you think we'll see a TNA superstar in the Royal Rumble, and if so, who?
I would say maximum two. Well, maybe three. That
Okay.
feels like a lot though.
Three's big. Yeah, I was about to say three is a lot.
I think real okay, so realistically, what are the options? Certainly Nick Nemeth could be an option. He's got it established really. Now, do they call him Nick Nemeth or do they call him Dolph Ziggler? I don't know. For that reason alone, I think maybe he doesn't show up.
As long as
Um,
they play they can't play the TNA music. They have to play I'm here to show the world. And that's all I ask for. You can call him Nick Nemeth, but they
yeah.
better play I'm here to show the world. Awesome
um,
things.
for that reason alone, I would say he's an option, but not likely. I think you could potentially promote some of the teenage bigger stars like a Moose or a Josh Alexander if that's your goal, just to get them exposure on WWE television, similar to how they did Jordan Grace last year, right? If you're a WWE audience, you may not necessarily know who these people are, but you see a bright future in them. But let's be very clear: there's only one name that's almost certainly in the Royal Rumble, and if you say his name, he appears. Joe Hendry, I think, is a safe bet to be at the Royal Rumble.
I think he's a lock too. I will say so he's my like lock like one. If there's gonna be a TNA superstar, it's gonna be him. But I'm gonna go. I think there are two solid picks because J did come out at the end of the Knockouts Women's Championship match, and they did have Masha Slamovich at
Mm-hmm.
NXT. I wouldn't be surprised if we had Masha Slamovich in the Rumble, which
Yeah.
would be awesome because you could have a moment with her and Shayna Baszler in the Rumble, kind of a callback to Bloodsport from last year's
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
WrestleMania, or I forget it was last year or 2 years ago, but they had a great Bloodsport match. And so that would be cool. And then you could obviously have Masha and Cora Jade go at it. Maybe Cora Jade eliminates Masha Slamovich, sets up a knockouts championship match. So I think Joe Hendry, Masha Slamovich, they're two big champions in TNA,
Mm-hmm.
will be in the Rumble. And I also think Jordan Grace will be in the
Yeah,
Rumble,
she's
but
back.
but she'll be a WWE contracted superstar.
Yes, because I think we've read that sure her contract's up with TNA, right?
Yes.
So she's locked in to WWE.
She did the big goodbye. And I can guarantee you we will not see Tessa Blanchard in the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so here's something interesting. Jordan Grace, we assume, will be signed to WWE, if not already, fairly soon by the Rumble. That's a WrestleMania match. Add that's something the women's division really needs is another fresh superstar to go up against. So could we be getting Jordan Grace and well, she's going to be a face. So I was going to say Jordan Grace and Rhea Ripley, which would be incredible, but maybe that's not the direction they go.
I think I have this person facing someone else, but I would not hate Jordan Grace versus Charlotte Flair.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate that either.
but I think they're going a different direction with Charlotte Flair.
Yes.
So, Jordan Grace. No, but Becky's probably going to face Rhea. So
Yeah,
that
I
would
think
set.
she's gonna be a face though, so I think she's got to go. Are we gonna get Jordan Grace and Nia Jax?
God, we totally are. No, you said that. Oh no, we totally are getting Jordan Grace and Nia Jax. She can do power spots and be really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
I actually wouldn't hate that, but or like surprise, like ultimate swerve. Jordan Grace was the one who attacked Jade Cargill. Jordan
Ooh,
Grace, Jade Cargill at WrestleMania.
I think I wouldn't mind that more than Naomi. Although it wouldn't really make sense because Jordan Grace didn't work there at the
It
time.
would
But
be
it's fine.
ultimate swerve, but like it's just something that if you
Yeah,
want to throw her into a storyline and just ditch all plans,
yeah.
then you go for that.
Either way, it's
Uh,
going to be exciting to have all these people in the Rumble. Um,
Real
but just
quick,
to see, yeah, go for it.
yeah, do you have something to say on the
I was
TNA
just going to
stuff?
start trying to get us
Okay.
back on track to Raw and the women. But
Okay, yeah, I do want to get back on track because there's a few things about this match I want to point out. Sunset flip into the ring post was awesome. Bailey doing that to Nia Jax was great. But then Bailey hits an annihilator on Nia Jax. And I'm sitting there like, this is not how that move works. Like, you can't be someone who weighs half the weight of
yeah.
the other person, sit on them, and then do the pose. And I'm like, that did nothing to Nia Jax. Like, I don't know. I know Nia Jax calls her BBL Bailey, but it's still, that didn't do anything to
Yeah.
Nia. But I thought Bailey did get a lot in, which helps in her losing because she
Mhm.
she got the elbow drop. There's multiple times where I thought she could beat Nia in this match. They did have a really good match, but ultimately Nia won. Rhea Ripley came out with the brawl. This is the thing that they'd love to do though with Rhea. It's like Rhea needs a big win. Or her with Nia. Like
Yeah.
that's they did it last year with Elimination Chamber. They're doing it this time in Saturday's main event. No chance Nia wins this title. I'm going
No.
Rhea Ripley.
Yeah. Again, yeah. So this again, Rhea is gonna win, but I don't. Why are they doing this? What happened to Nia and Tiffany? Why did we just give up on that with no real payoff?
They're putting
Tiffany,
it on hold
for what?
for no reason. I don't know.
Tiffany cashed in. We have how long have they been paired together? Since before SummerSlam, right?
You know what happened is that they aired that Charlotte Flair vignette, and everyone's like, "All right, clear out. No one's allowed to challenge Tiffany
Listen,
Stratton except
I
for Charlotte Flair."
I get Tiffany Stratton winning the world title now because you want to set her up as the champion going into WrestleMania for a big match. I get it. All I'm saying is right now is the perfect time to wrap up her stuff with Nia Jax before we get to after the Rumble, and you can actually start putting her with the people that you want to put her with for WrestleMania. But it makes no sense to have this entire story of Tiffany and Nia Jax going best friends to frenemies to now Tiffany's cashed in on her and took her championship, and then there's just no acknowledgement of it whatsoever. Like, what are we doing here? And then to have Nia about like she's just going to Ripley Rhea to lose like on Raw. It makes no sense. It makes no sense, Will. Make it make sense.
I think there's nice Jerry Seinfeld. I don't know what that was, but I do think they're in this weird spot that they get in sometimes where I think they want Tiffany Stratton as a heel, and they don't want heel versus heel right now. And I do think, by the way, I think Tiffany Stratton's better off right now in this moment as a face, but I think they want her as a heel,
Yeah.
and them doing Tiffany and Nia would just be heel versus heel, and they don't want her to get the babyface reactions.
She's gonna get
So
cheered anyway.
I know, but that's just how I feel like they do
And
that a
if you
lot
And
sometimes.
if you want Tiffany Stratton to be a heel, the person we fully expect her to be up against is not the best person. Like, she's gonna get even bigger reactions than going
Oh
against
yeah,
her.
no, it's totally gonna flop because they
Yeah,
better not think that Charlotte
Charlotte's gonna
Flair's
come
gonna
back
get
and get
cheered.
cheered
Yeah, no, they better not think that. So
over
they better
Tiffany
have someone
Stratton.
else. They better have someone else in mind. Well, she's not. I don't think Charlotte Flair's gonna get cheered. Like you could put her with Nia Jax, and Nia Jax becomes the face in that feud because as great as it is for her to recover from the injury that she had, it's not going to be like people just have this aura or they have this feeling about Charlotte Flair, and it's not going to get over, especially with someone
No,
who's as hot as Tiffany Stratton. I mean, that in a momentum meaning, but
you can say it in both ways.
well, you sure, I was trying to be respectful,
Yeah,
but I do think it's yeah, they can't think that, but I just have a feeling the way that they've been portraying Tiffany post championship win, especially with her going up against like Bailey and having different challenges like that. Like I could even see it being Tiffany and Bianca. I don't think that's going to be the case, but like they have a bunch of faces that are on that
Yeah.
top level on SmackDown for her to face, where I think they want her to
Tiffany and
remain
Bianca is
heel.
actually a pretty good show. I have to say for WrestleMania, that's actually
That
probably
is if they don't plan on doing the Jade. I do think it's Jade and Bianca, but
yeah.
that
I,
is a good way to go.
Yeah. If they end up doing Tiffany and Charlotte, it's a great match on paper as long as they just continue in their lane of their defined roles. Like Tiffany's getting the biggest babyface reactions of literally anybody on SmackDown. And Charlotte Flair, you cannot be a babyface. You cannot be expect to be cheered when your entire gimmick is bow down to the queen. So I don't get it. What they're anyway. We're getting ahead of ourselves because this is all theoretical anyway.
Yeah, I think there'll be a bit here. My prediction, if they, I think they're going to ride the momentum, but they're going to have a big moment where it's like Tiffany's official face turn instead of
Yeah,
it being like the crowd's cheering her. Let's just make her a face.
yeah. So we'll see. But point is, Nia Jax and Bailey are going in so many different directions. I'm so uninspired about this match between Nia Jax and Rhea Ripley at Saturday Night's Main Event. It really doesn't make any sense. And not for nothing, give Rhea something better to do. Like, I'm glad she's moved on from Liv, but can we give her like a little mini filler feud that doesn't involve somebody else's that's already in the story? Like, you just saw we have all this talent in the mid card. Like, give Rhea a story about trying to elevate somebody like a Dakota Kai, right? Dakota Kai doesn't win the Intercontinental Championship. You want to prove yourself against Rhea Ripley? Here's your match against Saturday Night's Main Event. You're not going to win, but it'll be a good match. That's what I would have done.
Yeah,
I don't
it
know.
just it's a nothing match. But again, it's the classic WWE like put her against a giant and she'll
Yeah,
look really strong. And so there's some things never change in WWE, and that's one of them.
some things never change. But speaking of change, we got a new superstar debuted last week. Penta El Cerro Miedo, or just Penta, as we like to affectionately call him now. And he had another great match this week against the Bruiserweight Pete Dunne. Um, I love both these guys. Really, really sad, honestly, how far Pete Dunne has fallen because he was my favorite guy in NXT, and I still think he's a great wrestler. Um, but yeah, this did, Penta had a great match. He looked strong again. Not too much more to say here. You still convinced that they're building toward a Penta Ray?
Uh, for now, I think that's the direction. Yeah, another good match. Wasn't as good as the Gable match, but I like these kind of matchups where it's like a clash of styles. They did the spot that I was hoping for where Penta does the Ceremero and Pete Dunne grabs his wrist. I think that's like classic. Like,
Mm,
you're already establishing in the match, like, okay, these are their two styles. But yeah, no, solid match for Penta. And I just hope that like the big thing I want to see is him have like a great moment in the Rumble. Like I would love
yeah.
to get him for him to get like an early entrant and make it all the way to like the end. Obviously,
Mm,
like not like maybe the Super Iron Man or whatever, but maybe give him like a single digit spot and then have him be around towards like the late 20s.
yeah.
And then you could do something with Penta getting eliminated by insert top heel.
Yeah.
Uh so yeah, I thought just another solid showing for Penta, and if they just keep this momentum going with Penta leading into his match, hopefully with like a Ray, then he gets a big win. Then post WrestleMania, you could start having him do stuff either in that upper tier of WWE, or maybe that's around the time where we get Ray Phoenix involved.
Yeah. Also worth noting here, before the Penta match, Chad Gable has a backstage segment with Dominic Mysterio, where he's looking for advice on how to take down the luchador, or take down his luchador problem. And he mentioned something very interesting about how he's gonna. What's maybe you can correct him on the phrasing, but he's gonna study the dark arts, or there's a dark arts reference in there.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know what that meant. I know some people have put out online that Dark Arts is in the name of the Alistair/Malachi Black training facility. I don't think that's happening because
It's
just
a stretch.
seems like a real stretch.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on what this could be?
Yeah, I just like the pessimist in me, it feels like it's like Santos
Yeah,
Escobar
like
or like it's
yeah,
like someone like that. He's gonna be on SmackDown and talk to Legado del Fantasma and
mm,
make it would be. I want to see just like a fun segment with like Chad Gable, Rocky style, like having a punching bag with like a mask on it, and
Yeah.
just like training to fight luchadors. I think that would be fun, and then you could
Yeah.
get like some sort of rematch with Penta, or we'll see where
Mhm.
it goes. Maybe faces Ray or something. But yeah, no, I think it could lead to a funny segment, but ultimately we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
See what
Who
happens.
knows? I have no idea. Maybe we'll get Papa Shango. Who knows?
I heard like Conan as
Yeah.
was just I'm like that's like let's be real, guys.
Yeah. All right. So then after the Penta stuff, we have some mid card women stuff with Damage Control and PFC, which is truly not worth talking about. Um,
This is where people go to bed, I
yeah,
believe,
this
in
is the
the portion of the show.
P break, unfortunately, but Damage Control wins as they should. Io Sky, obviously the biggest star here. It's
Yeah, and Io
just
Sky, I would have had her like as like a potential favorite to
mhm,
win this Rumble, or just like someone that you build up to as like one of the potential favorites. And
mhm,
having her in this tag match, it's like they really just slotted her right back into that mid card.
yeah.
It's
It,
unfortunate.
I think she'll be heating up after WrestleMania.
Well, we all
Um,
hope so, but rarely does that happen. So we'll
so
see.
two more segments to get through. Um, real quick before we get to our final two segments of the night, couple of matches that we haven't talked about on Saturday Night's main event. One of them was not addressed here on the show. Was Braun Strowman versus Jacob Fatu. Um, again, so Strowman returning from getting beat down by the Bloodline. This feels like just like a Jacob Fatu showcase match.
Yeah, I hope so. There's sometimes they're a little protective of Braun Strowman, like in the Bronson Reed feud. Braun Strowman had to get a win in that feud, but ultimately Bronson Reed won the feud. I think this should just be utter domination. You shouldn't mess around with this. Just have Jacob Fatu absolutely beat down Braun Strowman, and it sounds like in the background, you want to talk about the Braun Breaker match as well, so we could
That's
get into
correct. The dogs
that.
are barking for Braun Breaker. The other match at Saturday night's main event. Sorry,
You
folks.
can
What are
let
you
him. I
gonna
mean, Braun Breaker's in the
do?
building. Let him know.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? So yeah, so I agree. Braun Strowman and Jacob Fatu should be a pretty good match. Jacob Fatu though should win pretty easily, and then Braun, I don't know what the heck he does. Like he's kind of become a jobber weirdly enough, which is like not the role that like a 6'6" or 350 pound man should be in. But what do
No,
I
but
know?
I'm fine with it just because there's so much talent now on the roster
Yeah,
where a Braun Strowman kind of feels obsolete. It's a good way to get guys like a Bronson Reed or a Jacob
yeah,
Fatu over. So I think as long as he's fine in that role, then everything's good.
yeah.
If it comes out like in a year he gets released and he's like, oh, I should have been in the main event. It's like no one wants to see that. I'm
He should
sorry.
just go do stuff with the Wyatts at this point.
Sure. Yeah.
Um,
They're on SmackDown apparently, so I could definitely
yeah,
see that being the case.
yeah. I mean, listen, they needed something, but again, I could go on a tangent about them, and maybe I will in the near future. But for right now, let's talk about the reason that the dogs are barking, and that's Braun Breaker defending the Intercontinental Championship against Sheamus at Saturday Night's main event. This is something that you thought out was going to play out for a little bit longer, but I feel like this could be the end of the Sheamus Intercontinental Championship story.
So you think Sheamus is winning?
Oh no, I think Sheamus is losing.
Okay, because I think Sheamus is losing too, but I don't think that's the end of the Sheamus Intercontinental Championship story.
Are
I
you
think
getting a?
this story will legit continue until he wins the Intercontinental Championship. I hope you know this, Jason. There's no stopping this story. This is Sheamus's like motivation now as a character. Like I wouldn't even be surprised, honestly, if they take this angle. I don't want them to take this angle, but if they wanted to, kind of like Tommy Dreamer in the Rumble back in the day, where like Sheamus enters the Rumble and if he wins, he's going after the Intercontinental
It's
Championship. Like he doesn't care about having world titles. He's
funny.
been there. He's done that, but he really wants this Intercontinental Championship. I think that would just be something fun to add in the Rumble. Obviously, he wouldn't win, but um,
Never say never.
yeah, I think, man, if they do feel like ending this story or
Mm,
like going in a different direction, I could see Sheamus winning. But I think the story is Sheamus Braun Breaker for WrestleMania. Something happens here that kind of derails Sheamus for the time being, but then Sheamus is maybe like a mini feud. Maybe Kaiser costs him again. Um, but something happens in this match that leads to a mini feud with Sheamus, and then after like elimination chamber time, he gets refocused back to Braun Breaker.
I kind of think Kaiser's going to get involved again, which is disappointing. But I agree with you that like I don't think Sheamus is winning here. So if they're going to continue it, I guess that makes the most sense. But been there, done that. Let's move on. And let's be frank. I think Braun Breaker deserves a bigger star of an opponent than WrestleMania than Sheamus at this point in his career. So
Yeah.
that might just my 2 cents. Um. Okay. So also Saturday night's main event. Cody and Kevin Owens are going to sign their contract. I'm sure we'll get more developments from that on SmackDown, but for right now, not too much more to say there. I believe we've
Well, I
covered
have a
all.
question for you.
Okay, I have an answer for you.
Does Shawn Michaels get physically involved in this contract signing? Because it is in San Antonio, Texas, and
Mm-hmm.
he is in they advertised him to be a part of this contract signing.
Yes.
So do you think there's a reason why they chose him, other than the fact that it's in San Antonio, for him to be involved? Do you think Kevin Owens does something to like threaten his career, maybe put him in that pile driver that he hit Cody with at Saturday Night's Main Event last month? Do you think anything like that happens, or is he just going to be there to pretend that he's out of
Hmm.
breath and thank San Antonio for coming out?
If you're asking me, is Shawn Michaels taking a bump? No, he's not taking a bump on Saturday night's main event. However, does this segment end with a super kick to Kevin Owens? You bet your ass it does.
Okay. All right.
That's my prediction. I think Kevin Owens gets a little too hostile with the Heartbreak Kid, especially in his hometown. And yeah, I think we're gonna be tuning up the band come Saturday night.
Like I said, I don't think Sean's going to take a bump, but I think they tease it and
Mm,
Cody stops it from happening. Like Kevin
yeah,
Owens is about to do a pile driver, something like a ring apron power bomb, and Cody Rhodes puts a stop to it, and then they fight it out.
yeah.
And Cody saves the day and saves HBK.
Pin this tweet. Super kick into a crossroad.
Okay. In this tweet on Zoom. All right.
All righty. Let's talk about our last.
Clip this shit.
let's talk about the last two segments of Monday Night Raw, starting with the promo from your guy,
My
CM
guy.
Punk.
Best segment of the night.
And just to be clear, folks, that is a Daft Punk sweatshirt, not a CM Punk sweatshirt.
Yes.
So
I'm a fan of the punks, you know. You got
big
to
Punk
represent
guy.
all punks.
Yeah, a punks of all kind. Punky Brewster, all of them. Okay. So give me your thoughts on this CM Punk promo because it's a pretty good one. I mean, not that we expect anything less from CM Punk, but talk us about your thoughts.
Yeah, it was just a solid promo. It's like when you are going to wrestling school
Mhm.
and you want to learn how to cut a promo, and you
Yes.
kind of want to look at something like this because he mentions everything: the show, the date, the time, the place, and he also runs down all of the people he's going up against. He mentions John Cena. He even mentions Sami Zayn, who made a promo announcing he's going to be in the Rumble, and talks about how Sami Zayn's not on his level. Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre. Like he brings them up, his past with those two as well. And then he does something that's CM Punk, that's unconventional, where he calls out Hulk Hogan. And
Yeah.
it checks a lot of boxes in this case. It's one of those, ooh, is he supposed to say that? Like they're a sponsor. Like, are you supposed to say that Hulk Hogan's dusty ass is going to get thrown over the top rope? Um, so that adds to it, but it also is just like a give me for the crowd to be
Yeah.
like, go nuts for him. Like, if you want the crowd to go nuts for you, just hate on Hulk Hogan and the crowd is going to go crazy. So I thought that was genius for both those aspects.
Mhm.
But at the same time, there is just part of me that now wants to see Hulk Hogan in the Rumble just so CM Punk can
Yeah,
toss
right.
his dusty ass over the top rope. Like, I would literally love if it was like a Santino-esque spot where Hulk
Yeah.
Hogan gets in the ring and Punk clotheslines him out. I don't
Yeah.
think Hulk Hogan would
I don't think they're
ever
doing
agree
that.
to that.
No, that
But
doesn't work for me, brother.
deep down in my heart, if Hulk Hogan if he had the balls, if he was truly who he was, he would go for something like that. But yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
But just a fun segment. Love seeing CM Punk on the show, and it was definitely it's CM Punk when he said it. He knew like this is going to be awesome. People are going to talk about this, and this was the most talked about thing on Raw, I feel like, outside
Yeah.
of maybe the Kevin Owen, Sami Zayn stuff. So yeah, loved it.
Yeah.
Oh, and he also, just real quick, he did mention the favor. He said he might have to cash in a favor or two. So I do like that, even though I don't think it'll result in anything at the Rumble. It's just something for people to think about. Like,
Keep
oh, if he
reminding
does
them.
want to cash in, like, is Paul Heyman out on ringside when
Yeah.
Roman comes into the Rumble? It's just again, it's stuff for people to think about, like with the Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn segment. Just stuff for people to speculate on heading into the Rumble, which I always do like
Yeah.
and appreciate,
His Heyman in the bank.
of course.
Yes. Good stuff from CM Punk. And then lastly, that brings us to our main event of Monday Night Raw, which is the rematch from WrestleMania 40 this past year. Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre, not for a title. But regardless, they main event Monday Night Raw in a good match. Seth Rollins gets the win with like a roll up sort of cover, jackknife cover, technically. That brings out actually Sami Zayn, who accidentally hit Seth Rollins with a haluva kick. We get some tension between Sami and Seth before they head into the Rumble. I'm assuming we're getting Seth and Sami maybe next week on Raw in the go home show. And I thought this was good stuff. It's kind of a weak way to end the show, in my opinion, but for what it is, I mean, you can't complain. Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre in the main event's always good.
Yeah, I did like this finish and also the post match stuff a lot because I do think there's a direction they're going in with Seth Rollins where all this talk with Drew McIntyre is going to catch up to him and it could lead
Mm-hmm.
to a Rollins, a break or a turn where he finally gives in to what McIntyre's saying. They team up and go kind of against the bloodline together. And I think that could result in something in the Rumble. As to what
Mm-hmm.
that is, I'm not entirely sure, but it could even lead to them eliminating Roman Reigns together, which I
Yeah,
think would be an interesting little plot device that they could put into the Rumble. But I think the way that they delivered this, Sami Zayn coming out kicking Rollins, even though it was on accident, and Seth Rollins being like, he kind of, I think Rollins deep down figured it was an accident, but either way, he still has every right to be upset that
yeah,
Sami Zayn just kicked him in the head. So it's definitely one of those endings where you're curious to see what happens in the coming weeks and see if anything happens in the Rumble. So overall, enjoyed it. And I also like Drew McIntyre continuing to be frustrated by these flash pins and wins
mm-hmm.
from his opponents. So I do think the best case scenario is what I laid out with McIntyre Rollins teaming up to eliminate Roman. But any sort of interaction between the two where they either team up or they establish that no, we're going in different
Mm-hmm.
directions will be great in the Rumble because that's what I'm mostly looking forward to when it comes to these two. Uh, when Rumble time comes around.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun to watch them in the Rumble. I don't expect any of these people involved to win. I think we already went over the three people that we really consider to be the options to win the Royal Rumble. But still, regardless, it'll be a fun pay per view. And, the road to WrestleMania is always a good time. So I'm excited. I think we're in a good spot. Overall, though, well, I thought this Raw was kind of underwhelming. Um, it was, I don't know, maybe we just got spoiled with so much good stuff for a long time, but this kind of just felt very average. And yeah, I don't know. It didn't really do it. It was okay. It was okay. I'll leave it at that.
I thought it was a good show because I liked what they did to get people interested in talking for the Rumble. I thought from
Mm,
that aspect they did a really good job on the show. There was just some stuff like with the women's division.
yeah.
I am really starting to lose faith that they know what they're doing with this women's division. It seems like they try to shoehorn in all these random storylines and stuff before like a big pay-per-view. They
Yeah.
did it with War Games, they did it with Crown Jewel. Now they're doing it with the Rumble. It feels like there's no real storylines or directions to really get attached to when
Yeah.
it comes to the women's division. So that's kind of where I'm disappointed. And I'm also disappointed with kind of where the New Day was going. I felt like they had a lot of momentum post Big E
Yeah.
angle and I don't know if they're holding out for something in the Rumble, but I felt like this was a step in the wrong direction. Other than that, stuff with Penta is great. Stuff with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens is great. CM Punk obviously steals the show every time. So just a good episode, but there's just at this point our standards are starting to get a little higher. And
Yeah.
so when they don't deliver on that, it's tough.
I'll say this. Triple H has done so many great things since taking over for this company. But if we're going to hold him accountable, one of the biggest flaws that I found from him as a booker has been his consistency of ending stories before they have a time to pay off. I feel like we've seen this a lot with the Chad Gable and the Otis stuff. I feel like the Wyatt Six stuff kind of was really mismanaged. I think this Nia Jax Tiffany Stratton stuff has been weird. Um, there's a lot, and I'm sure there's more if we look back of just like stories that they like kind of just drop without really like properly getting to the finish of it. Um, so listen, nobody's perfect, but that is certainly something that I would like for them to address in 2025. Like, okay, you want to move on, at least give us the ending, right? Like, you want to move on to Nia Jax and Rhea Ripley, fine, but just do a Nia Jax Tiffany Stratton match on SmackDown and call it a day before we move on. It just doesn't make any sense. So that's my one complaint, I would say.
Yeah, I would have rather have been Tiffany and Nia on SmackDown versus Tiffany and Bailey. I get that was
Mm,
Bailey's like kind of send off, but if they're really not going to do the Tiffany Nia match, which again they still could do it, but it just feels like they're in a weird spot now with where they want Tiffany to be
mm,
and what they want from Nia, and it does feel weird putting Nia in that World Heavyweight Championship spot before having this feud with Tiffany.
yeah,
They can still obviously do that match, but they got to figure a lot of stuff out.
yeah. And then obviously just more consistency and creativity with the women's division as a whole and making their stories make sense because like we've been saying, they're just jumping around and no for no real rhyme or reason.
Yeah. Right now, it feels like they know what they're doing with Cody. They know what they're doing when it comes to the bloodline stuff. Outside of that, it's kind of,
Yeah.
you know, just wait week to week.
And then one last thing I do want to mention about the show because I forgot to talk about it earlier. We got a vignette for Logan Paul's debut on Raw next week.
Cool.
So you have that to look forward to, Will.
I guess.
Yeah, not a big Logan Paul guy.
Well, I did you see that video of him at the inauguration? Yeah, I think he gimmicked Theo Von's chair.
Yeah, don't hate on Theo Von. Okay, Theo Von versus Logan Paul at WrestleMania.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I felt like he did Theo Von dirty by
Yeah,
giving him a bad chair.
if
And
that's
then he tried to be
true,
like, oh, well, he knew it was a bad chair. It's like,
yeah,
well, clearly he didn't based on his response to the situation. So
yeah,
that was kind of lame to me.
that was kind
But
of lame.
I mean, I
Inside of a
guess he's a
WWE
villain now.
sense, though, are
Maybe
you?
maybe he has like an excuse to do all this stuff now. He's like he feels like okay, I'm a villain in
Mhm.
WWE, so now I could just start being an asshole to everyone, and I could just be like, well, I'm a bad guy in WWE, so I'm just working you, brother.
I think that's just how he is. I think he's always been like that. I
Right.
think he's obviously not for everyone. I think he's a natural born heel. I think both him and his brother actually, regardless of what you think about them outside of the confines of WWE, whether they're political or whatever, they are great TV villains and TV characters. Like they translate immediately to WWE television. Logan's an incredible athlete, as you've seen. Um, so I'm excited to see what he does next because in the confines of WWE, I think he's a good character. Um, but yeah, outside of that, take him or
Yeah, I don't know if you caught his uh podcast with Paul Heyman,
leave him. No.
but okay. We'll definitely have you watch it and then we'll talk about it at some point, maybe next week. But it
Okay.
was there's some things that he said there that I was just like, oh man, he's still like he's obviously great and he gets certain stuff, but just deep down, he's like he's either the ultimate worker of workers, but I just don't think he's, you know,
Mhm.
on that level yet. So it just makes me think he's thick. But we'll see.
Could be. Could be. Would not be shocking. So, all right. Well, that is going to do it for this week's episode of Top Rope Takes. Thank you so much for listening. Will, any final thoughts? Anything you want to plug before we head on out?
No, just everyone, get excited for the Rumble. I'm really am excited for this Rumble coming up
Yeah.
next week. We're gonna have our predictions next week. A lot of great stuff coming for Top Rope Takes, so definitely stay tuned.
Woo! Predictions next week, like you said. It's a fun time of the year. So thanks for sticking with us, and we'll have more content coming to you soon. But for now, take care, and we will see you all next time.
Peace.